Now, we've got Lib Dem councillor Robert Douglas with us. How are you, Robert?
Very well indeed, Stuart, and hope all well with you.
It is. Now, we've got to ask you, why should we vote for you?
Well, I mean, first of all, I am standing both as a Congleton Town councillor, and I'm also standing for Cheshire East Ward of Brereton Rural, where I've lived for the last 17 years. And now that I have had 4 years of experience as a Congleton Town councillor, I believe that I have now the knowledge and the experience, and past my previous experience as a chartered accountant and for over 20 years group financial director and company secretary of a multi-million-pound business, to look after not just the interests of residents within a town ward of Congleton, and also we do help out our residents in other parts of Congleton who come to us, but also the residents of Brereton Rural Ward. And there's a lot of issues which concern both Brereton Rural Ward and also Congleton Town. Firstly, the recycling site campaign. This is a campaign which was started 5 days after Cheshire East announced that they were looking at recycling sites back in November 2020. And as well as speaking at Cheshire East and at Congleton Town Council subject, I have spoken at the majority of the parishes on this subject, and they've all given me their support, because many of the parishes and their residents of Brereton Rural, as well as the residents of Congleton, have been adversely impacted by the loss of this recycling site. And in fact, areas of Brereton Rural Ward have suffered a double whammy, because we lost the Arclid site back in 2018. And I met somebody last week who lived right opposite the old Arclid site. And now, instead of just walking across the road, or even just driving into Congleton, they've got to go all the way into Macclesfield, which makes no sense whatsoever. And to make matters worse, there's no doubt that Cheshire East are ignoring the interests of rural residents, because in March 22, at a committee meeting, they made the statement that the loss of the Congleton recycling site had no implications on residents in rural areas. And I mean, I can't even believe they even made that statement. And I was the only person to point out that statement was totally unfounded. And it is necessity for us to fight on the campaign for this recycling site. And as you know, Stuart, Cheshire East made the incorrect claim that it would cost £4 million for a replacement site, and I had to do some digging work through the help of Norfolk Council to ascertain that the site down at Norwich, which had a throughput 5.4 times that of Congleton's, cost just 1.9 million plus land and service road, and it had 46 car park spaces. And as you know, we only could get about 6 cars on the Congleton site. But in order to drive this through to a satisfactory conclusion, if I was representing not just a Congleton, but also a Cheshire East Ward or Brereton Rural, I believe that we would be able to achieve the result that we're all looking for on that issue. Then there are also other issues, such as, say, car park charges. I was one of about a dozen people who spoke up at a Cheshire East Highways meeting against the introduction of car park charges for Sandbach, Holmes Chapel, Alsager and Middlewich, but also against the increase of car park charges in Congleton. And the problem is, driving up car park charges means that people will go to where they don't have to pay in sites like at Barn Road. And this is making the life of our high streets even more difficult. They've gone through COVID, and I did attend a meeting of Cheshire East back after the first lockdown and implored them to allow a period of free parking to help the businesses in the high street of Congleton, to help them get back on their feet. But this was rejected, and now they've got the energy price crisis. So to damage our businesses with increased car park charges could just be enough for us to lose a few more, which obviously is not in the interests of the residents of Congleton and the surrounding areas.
Now, councils, local councils and like Cheshire East, they're all going to be facing cutbacks. How do you think you can fight that if you're voted into power?
Well, I think this goes back to a situation that if you don't have a strong representative, you are going to lose out. Again, take Brereton Rural, down Brereton Heath Lane, they have people who park illegally on double yellow lines, and they are quite rightfully punished. And in the year ending March 2021, Cheshire East earned from just Brereton Heath Lane £24,300 in fines, which was right. But if you look along the lane where people are allowed to park, they haven't spent any money, and it's a shocking state. And in fact, I stopped by on last Sunday when the traffic warden was putting tickets on cars, and I said to him, yep, it is right that you're doing this because it's highly dangerous, particularly the people who park on the run side of the road, because people then on this narrow, busy lane trying to dash across to the heath. And I said to the car department, I said, it's just a pity that Cheshire East don't spend the money to make the areas where they are allowed to park are reasonable, because they're in a truly shocking state. And he agreed with me because, and obviously he was pleased that I was giving him support. And at the end of the day, you have to have a strong voice, or else the money will get diverted. And there's been a lot of comment that an unreasonable share of the funds of Cheshire East have been diverted towards Crewe. And it was quite clear from the outset, as far as I was concerned, that this Cheshire East Labour group had no interest in a recycling site for Congleton, because if they had, they would have done a detailed costing to at least get the facts. And I don't understand how an organisation as large as Cheshire East can make a major decision without getting detailed costings. I mean, we at Congleton Town Council, we've all worked so well together all across the groups, and as have the officers. And it's just standard procedure for us at Congleton Town Council. And this is not just the Liberal Democrat thing, this is across the groups, that we would get from the officers detailed costings on which then we can make a sensible decision. So it needs somebody to stand up for their community, to speak with a loud voice in order to get the protection and the interests of the residents of that area looked after.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Robert. We appreciate it.
Okay, many thanks indeed, Stuart, for calling me onto the programme.